All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. If you have friends who have not joined, make sure they have the link. If you send them a quick link out. Today, we're going to look at creating goal scoring chances. A little bit different than the other webinars we've done in terms of the look of the presentation, but then also kind of how we're presenting it as well. So we'll get started. Maybe. There we go. So the contents for today, we're going to look at how our goals created, where do goals start, where are goals created, and then we're going to look at some video clips and some takeaways. So this is just a little, we use some video from FIFA. So sometimes when we post it to YouTube, they want to take it down. That happened with, I think, our second webinar. Eventually it got back up, but we just post this there in case anybody cares. So you guys don't have to read that. And then just this little quote. I think it's important when we think about goal scoring as the final piece of the puzzle. We put the ball into the back of the net, and yes, that's an important part of it. But if you think, sometimes you listen to a game and you'll hear the commentators, oh, it's not working for them. They can't find the final ball. So getting the ball into areas where we can score goals is important. And this is just the manager of a club in Denmark called FC Nordsjælland. They rely very much on their youth academy to produce players for the first team, and then they sell them on to bigger countries to the clubs there, like the Premier League and Germany and those types of leagues. So basically what he's saying here, we know where goals are scored. 85% of our goals are scored in the danger zone, and we'll see what that is. All right. And we know that we have to get closer and closer to the goal, especially get to the higher levels. All right, the shots from distance outside the box, the bangers, if you will, look great. And they usually make the highlight reels for like top goals. But if you look at the percentage of the shots that are taken from those areas versus the number of shots that go in, it's a very, very low number, usually in the low single digits. So what do we need to do to create those chances? All right, where are the assist areas? We think about where the goal scoring areas are, but where do most assists come from? So our attack needs to be, we need to be thinking about how do we get the ball into the assist area where most goals are, the assists come from, and then how do we get the ball into the area where the most goals are scored? That needs to be the focus of training. So that's the nature of the quote there. So how are goals created? Well, we find a player running in behind in a line. That's one way. We beat defenders on the dribble, or sometimes just being a little bit better position and receiving a pass. But we still usually have to take a first touch and do something with it. So we beat defenders on the dribble. We have some combination play to create goal scoring chances, or we switch the point of attack. So somebody might say, well, where a cross would be switching the point of attack. Ball's in a wider area, it gets played to a central area, we're switching the point of attack. But those are the four basic ways that we create goals. Obviously, we have to shoot to score the goal, but we get in position to do that by finding players running in behind, beating the defenders on the dribble, combination play, or switching the point of attack. All right, so those are our four. Well, we've got a couple animations there. I don't know what happened there. Where do goals start? All right, so this is some research that's done by an Australian guy called Mark Scanlon. He looked at some World Cup data. All right, and all of our data comes from the World Cup. So all of our clips are the men's and women's World Cup. All right, and this refers to the area. He broke the field up. The direction of play is going to the left. All right, as you're looking at your screen. So this is where the ball was won by the team that eventually created a chance. All right, so this is not necessarily a goal that was scored, but they created a really good goal-scoring chance or goal-scoring opportunity. So we see the big area is in the middle of the field right there. 106 times a team that created a goal-scoring chance won the ball in this area of the field. All right, very rarely backed by your own goal. So very rarely do we win the ball by our own goal that we were defending and then progress the ball all the way down to the opposite end of the field to create a goal-scoring chance. If you remember last week, we talked about pressing. We said we looked at these two areas of the field in particular, the one closer to our goal, the one in midfield, and we said if we can win the ball on our half of the field, then that's where most goals are created. And these statistics back that up. All right, obviously we could maybe go into this area of the field where some of these balls, the 52, 106, and 63 were won, but generally speaking, in the middle of the field. If you also remember the pressing last week, Coach Jesse mentioned that he likes to funnel play inside. And this, as a coach, as a team, it kind of makes you think, well, he likes to do it for a specific reason. If most of the chances are created by winning the ball in this middle area of the field, then perhaps that's a really good, something he can use to back up, well, this is why we do it, because most chances are created here. So that's something that as a coach or even as a player, if you're super interested in the game, you can kind of use data. There's a fine line between having too much data probably or figuring out what data matters. But this obviously is a pretty important statistic. So this next,
hey, Joe.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, I made that decision based on data, but I just got lucky. But now I will use this chart to justify my decision for the future.
Sometimes you have a gut feel. It certainly made me think about it. Like I know that eventually we have to force play back to the inside, but it made me think about where when we do that for sure. So so this is where goals were actually scored. All right. So if we go back to that previous slide, this is where we created a chance to score a goal, but maybe did not finish. This is where teams won the ball and then actually scored a goal. All right. So you look closer to the goal in the middle, 20 goals were scored by winning the ball in this area of the field or regaining possession. 26 in that next zone in the center. All right. Interestingly, from the left side, all right, 23 goals when we won the ball in this area, but then only 14 from this area. So that's a curious one where maybe you'd say, I'd like to dig into that a little bit more. I really need to watch the games to figure out where maybe more teams attacking down an opponent's left than down their right. So that's something we would have to ask. If there were more opportunities to win the ball on this left side of the field, that might account for the difference in number. Was it a specific tactical scheme? One thing I should add is that these are the top 4 teams. So these are the teams that finished in the top 4 in the World Cup. So it doesn't account for like Thailand, for instance, who lost their game, the first game to the U.S. 13-0 in the Women's World Cup. This is only the top 4 teams. So maybe there's a certain way that those top 4 teams are defending that forced more balls to the left. Again, so this would require more study. The numbers alone give you an idea, but they don't necessarily tell you the whole story. It's something else that we would need to investigate. It definitely tells us that in the middle of the field, we win more balls. So when we think about defending, and if you remember, I stress this all the time, the game is connected. It's not just attack as one piece and then defending as another piece with kind of transition and set pieces out there on their own. All of it is connected. So we really need to think about where we want to win the ball, how we want to set up defensively to give ourselves the best opportunity to go score, because we need the ball in order to create goal scoring chances. So this just kind of breaks the ball down into thirds. So this is the complete length of the field. All right. So again, 195 goals or 195 chances were created when a team won the ball anywhere from end line to end line in the middle of the field. So again, Coach Jesse's his gut told him to go to the inside. Maybe data didn't drive that, but it was just kind of a feeling he had. But now he can say, well, this is my gut feeling, and there's data behind it as well. So this is why we do it. So again, similar, not as big of a disparity between right and left in this one when we take into account the entire length of field. 90 goals or 90 chances were created when we won the ball on the right-hand side, 105 when we go to the left. And this is goals scored. All right, again, 51. So that central zone is where we really want to be winning the ball back to give ourselves the best chance to score goals. All right, on the right side, we see the number when we factor in the entire length of the field. The numbers are similar, 20 from the right, 24 from the left. Divide the field up into vertical thirds. Again, we see the same kind of a thing. When we win the ball in the middle of the field, all right, we create the most chances. All right, so from touchline to touchline in this middle third, 221 chances created by winning the ball in this third of the field, this middle third, 125, not a big surprise. We get a lot of goal scoring chances when we can win the ball closer to our goal, all right, which would drive maybe a decision to press as a defensive tactic or strategy. And then only 44 chances created when we win the ball in the third closest to the goal we are defending. So if you're bunkering or you're sitting and playing in a low block defensively, may have to sacrifice the number of chances that you are creating in a game, which also means that you need to take advantage of a higher percentage of your chances when you get them. If you get 3 chances in a game and you finish at 50%, all right, or a little under 50% or over 50%, you're scoring at least 1 goal, maybe 2. If you're getting 10 chances or 15 chances and you're finishing at 30% from a 15 chance, you're going to score 3 goals. So it's just a matter of what kind of what you're looking to do. All right, that if you're looking to play a low block, you have to concede that we may not create as many chances in a game, and we're going to have to be more clinical in taking those chances when we get them. And these are the number of goals actually scored. So 25 goals scored when we won the ball, closest to the goal we're attacking, 63 in the middle, and only 7 goals scored when we won the ball, closest to the goal we are defending. So now we look at, so that's where that we win the ball, or how we regain the ball in order to create goal scoring chances. This is where our goals created. All right, so when we look at the field, all right, we break it up. All right, we broke it this way, up this way, or similar way before when we looked at playing out of the back. So right outer corridor, right interior corridor. You might hear this referred to as the half space at times. All right, central corridor, left interior corridor, or left half space, and then the left outer corridor. All right, remember the zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, zone 6 are just my way of breaking up the field. Some coaches just do zone 1 would be these 2 zones, zone 2 in the middle, that area we looked at in the previous slides, and then this zone here closest to our goal, the attacking third. When we get closer to the goal zone, this is where we'll see in the next few slides, this is where the most goals are scored. If we want the highest percentage of likelihood of scoring a goal, we need to find ways to get the ball into this area of the field. All right, not an easy task because most teams are going to concentrate on defending this area of it. We look at these zones on the outside, basically from the edge of the 6-yard box out to the edge of the 18. All right, these are what we call box assist zone. There's lots of different names for this. I think the Seattle Sounders call this the box cross zone. Some people just call it the assist zone. Some people call it POMO. They call it the positional of optimal opportunity. So, but this zone basically is an area where you will see a lot of assists, and more in the modern game at the highest level on both the men's and women's side, more assists are coming from these zones out here than they are anywhere else on the field, or at least as much as anywhere else on the field. All right, it used to be an area right here at the top of the box out to about here. It's called the Premier League started using a stats company called Opta that broke the field up into zones, and this was zone 14, as they broke the field up and just numbered them left to right, forward and backward. This was zone 14. So zone 14 kind of has a mythical meaning, especially amongst data analysts and coaches in the game. But zone 14 is right about on par with these 2 zones in here. So if we want to create goals or get the ball in the position where it's easiest or most likely to create goals, it's these box assist zones here on either side of the goal, and then this central assist zone. So those are the 3 areas where the most goals come from. In the game now, in the last few years in particular, if you watch most teams, but particularly you watch Man City, if you watch Liverpool, if you go look at highlights of games, you will see many goals scored here with diagonal balls played into the box. All right, so we call this the diagonal assist zone. Again, there's lots of different names for it. This is the name that I've given it, but you'll see a lot of balls played into this area. All right, difficult to defend, unsure what the player with the ball is going to do. They attract a lot of attention to this side of the field, and then we can make some blindside runs here toward the back post that make it a very, very enticing ball to play and one that has high value or more and more value to those shots. So these are the areas where goals are most likely to come from, which means as a team, we need to try to get the ball into these 5 areas, all right, in order to create goals, all right, and we need to get the ball into this goal zone more often than not to create the actual goals. So now we got some data to back this up. So these are from the 2018 and 2010. The top, all right, the top is from the 2010, all right, World Cup. This is where the assists come from, all right. So if we look in the 2010 World Cup, 6% of assists came from that wide channel out on the left. But we fast forward to 2018, only 1% of goals were assisted there. Same thing, we go back down to the zone here on the right, a little bit further out. For an earlier cross, 5% of assists came from that area, dropped down to 3.1, all right, in 2018. So we go to the other side. Similar number here, 6%, 5.2%, all right, between 2010 and 2018. 6% in 2010 in that zone a little bit further back, drops down in half by 50% to 3.1, all right. And we go to the inside, all right, 10% of goals are coming from that area of the field, from this assist zone right here, 6% on the right-hand side. And when we go to 2018, 7.2%, 5.2%. So similar numbers, all right. We see the importance of these 2 zones in terms of assists, all right. 6%, 7% in 2010, 6.2, 6.2, very even right there in 2018, all right. And then 4% and 6.2% assists here in the middle, all right. And the inside the arc, 3.3% in 2010, 1% in 2018. All right, if we want to look at 2010, this is what we would call zone 14. So 14% of the goals were created in zone 14. We drop down to 2018, only 7.2% of goals are created in this zone. Why? Well, if we know that this zone right here is 14% of the assists came from this zone, well, the response from teams is going to be to defend this area differently so it is less dangerous if possible. So what do we see here? We see play going out here 12.4%, all right, in 2018. 12.4% of assists came from this area, this diagonal cross zone or diagonal central cross zone, only 3%, all right. So what might account for that? Again, there could be a lot of factors. One thing might be that this is a cross is set up well for a left or right footer, all right, meaning that if it's naturally left-footed players in that zone, they can clip this ball into the back post easily, just as easily as a right footer could, all right. So you don't need as much specialization in here in terms of technical ability. You notice here it's 6.2, 6.0. So that's stayed relatively the same over the course of 2 World Cups, all right. But you can see there's definitely a greater importance. Only 9% of goals were assisted in these 2 diagonal cross zones, all right, whereas we jump up to 18%, all right, actually over 18.5%, almost 19% of the goals were assisted from these 2 zones. So we see how it becomes more and more important, all right. So again, you can see the zones here, out here, not a lot of assists, all right. We want to look at one other thing. 4.0% of goals were assisted from a team's own half, meaning a long ball over the top. All right. Now we go down to 2018, 9.2%. Again, we can read into that. All right. But we have to figure out why. All right. We have to think about why that might be the case. And we'd have to watch more games to really be able to come to a conclusion. Are teams playing a higher line in 2018? Are their defenders pushing out more and trying to pin teams in their own half defensively, meaning that when the defending team wins the ball, there's more space for them to play directly in behind the opponent? Maybe that's the case. Maybe teams have more possession of the ball. There's more possession-oriented teams in 2018, and that might have something to do with it. Maybe there's teams who are playing in a lower defensive block. If we think about the 2018 World Cup champions, France, they played in a mid to low block. They invited teams forward, all right, deeper into their zone. And then if you think about one of the stars of the World Cup, Kylian Mbappe, he loved that space in behind. He would cheat forward a little bit. They played a 4-4-2. Mbappe played out wide on the right-hand side. All right, when possession was won, he would start going forward immediately, and they would find him in behind. All right, so that might have something to do with it. So we can't just naturally say, well, this is what the stats say, so this is what it means. We have to think about it a little bit more in depth, but it definitely informs us about, you know, things to think about. All right, so goal percentages. And this is just the 2018 World Cup. For whatever reason, the source I used for this did not have a goal percentage for the 2010 World Cup. It has a goal number, but not percentage. But we look at this golden zone again. So the golden zone we kind of defined as here from one side of the 6 to the other side of the 6 out to the 18. So if we look at it, almost 38% of goals were scored from right in here, from 18 yards in. All right. And then we add another 26% if we add in these wide zones. Of course, we could go out to here, and that might fudge the numbers a little bit, all right? But basically, the majority of the goals, all right, the majority of the goals, over 50% of goals from the run of play, not from set pieces. You see the additional 13.6% goals were scored here from the penalty spot, all right? But 50% of the goals, over 50% of the goals from the run of play are scored in this zone. So very, very important that we find ways to get the ball into the central area inside the 18. The bangers, yep, 2.4% of goals were scored here, 5.9% from the central zone, 5.3%. So if you add these up, 5.9, 5 point, so we're at what, 6.2, or sorry, 11 thereabouts. My math is terrible, so a 10. Yeah, we're like 11.2, 13.7. So if you add these three areas up, all right, it just beats this one, all right, doesn't beat this one, all right, and then again, it comes in, it's a very, very huge gap between scoring goals from this area of the field to getting into this golden zone. So 2018, just the number of goals scored. So we see 7 goals scored. This will help you. The percentages look great, but how many shots were taken or how many goals total? So 7 goals scored from this bad angle, 3 from this not so great angle. All right. 25, 64, 20. All right. So again, a significant portion of the goals scored, over 100 goals scored, not including penalties, in this golden zone. All right. Outside, again, the banger zone. All right, 23 goals. That's it. 23 goals from this area. If you want to, you could be generous and even include the top of the box or the inside the arc rather as a banger area, but still a significantly lower number of goals scored from this area. Now, does that mean shots from distance aren't valuable? No, of course not. They can have value. One, you can have specialists who are very, very good at it. On the women's side of the game, most people are familiar with the University of North Carolina, and Anson Dorrance has players who are designated as, you can take a shot from outside the box. You are a specialist at it. You are good at it. And he likens it to basketball. You have certain players on the team who you consider 3-point shooters. And then you have other players on the team who there is no way on God's green earth that you want them to take a shot from out there if we can avoid it at all. So he has that similar kind of philosophy in that certain players have the green light to take shots from outside the box, and other players are instructed to find a different solution. But again, it can pull defenders out if they're trying to compact the zone and we hit some dangerous shots from distance. Maybe it gets them to close down and it opens up lanes so that we can get into that golden zone. So there could be a value in that. Sometimes it's just opportunistic. I think if we think back to the 2018 World Cup, one of the goals of the entire tournament was France against Argentina. You had Benjamin Pavard's goal, that volley that just kind of knuckled in the air and went into the upper 90. That's a goal. That's a world-class goal taken from outside the 18 and probably a very low percentage shot, but it worked. Everybody remembers it, and it kind of turned that game back in France's favor. So, again, it's not that they don't have value, but if we're taking most of our shots from this area, we probably know that our chances aren't very good. So we can still take shots from distance, but we need to probably take more of our opportunities to get the ball into this golden zone more often than we're taking shots from these areas out.
So Joe, I'll make just a comment here. With some of these shots from outside the 18, like I think, yes, you get less, of a result from it, but I think, it is important to take that chance every now and then, because what it does is it starts to draw defenders off their back line, because they aren't going to just allow you to have a shot from 18 to 20 yards. So things to pay attention to: if you do cut inside and look for that shot and you miss, it's fine, but pay attention, who stepped off their line. Did it create a better angle? Maybe next time, because I know that center back is going to come charging out to deny the shot, is there another way that I can slip in? So taking those shots from distance is what's going to also help you create some chances to slip people into these little golden zones. So, I think just because you see the big golden zone, playing into that all the time and ignoring the shot may not help either. You want to have a good balance. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Jesse. So we look at 2010, the goal scoring areas, similar numbers. All right, only one goal scored from these awkward angle areas or tight angles, 7 from this other side. Again, over 100 goals scored from this golden zone. All right, a few more goals scored from this area, but not very many. All right, if we want to include this one, we get to over 20 again. All right, but again, and some weird goals out here. All right, some weird goals out here. Obviously, those are anomalies, because in the last World Cup, we didn't see any goals scored from those areas. So sometimes crazy stuff happens in a game. But again, as we said, these shots still have value, all right? But we've got to be fair. I think we have to know what we're doing. I think when we just start whacking at balls from this zone, sometimes we're in a game and we feel like we have to get a goal back. Sometimes we can make rash decisions. So I think we have to be very purposeful in what we're doing. And if we're taking 20 shots in a game and 18 of them come from this area of the field, we have to recognize that those are lower percentage shots. Whereas if we're getting 18 of our shots in here, we could take 18 of our shots from out here and not hit one on frame. And we could take 18 shots from here, and we probably can expect to score at least one goal, if not more. So definitely the word balance needs to be had. We can't always go into here because it's easy to defend you, and we can't take all of our shots from out here for sure. But again, we just see similar numbers in terms of where goals are scored from there. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but this basically is the location of every assist, all right, from the 2010 World Cup, all right, and from the 2018 World Cup. So again, you can see the clusters, all right, not a lot from wide areas, some crosses, obviously, for the most part, all right, maybe some early crosses in here, all right, or maybe those are just balls slipped inside, all right, but you see the cluster is in these areas, all right, those 5 zones that we talked about early on. Same thing here. In fact, it's even a little bit more intense in here, the clusters, and we see only 2 assists from this left corner, all right, only 5 from the right side, all right, so not a lot of assists from those wider areas. So again, not saying that crossing doesn't, if you've got a towering beast in the middle who is fantastic at winning balls in the air, and you also have somebody who is fantastic at whipping crosses in, then that's not to say that you shouldn't play crosses in. But I think if we just, generally or generically say, hey, we should get more crosses into the box, well, maybe not. So again, we have to think about, one, where are goals created, where are goals scored, and then also we have to think about our team as well. What are the strengths of our team? What are the key qualities of the players that we have in attack? And then we can kind of adjust from there. All right, and these are the 2010 goal areas, so we can see again where the clusters of goals were scored. All right, again, all clustered in this golden zone for the most part. All right, the yellow, if you see the yellows there, those are free kicks. So there's a couple free kicks from distance. All right, but for the most part, all the blues are open play. And here's 2018. All right, again, the cluster is in the gold zone. All right, still see goals from out here. All right, and again, we think about some of the greatest goals they're the greatest goals ever scored from out here. but they're also opportunistic and they can change games, change momentum as well. So we don't want to say that we're just looking at percentages now. What's more likely? So now at some goals, remember we have to dribble to create. We have to run by players to create. We have to combine, all right, or we have to switch the point of attack. Again, all these things don't necessarily happen in isolation. It's not one or the other. It's this one and the other three aren't there. Sometimes it's a combination of 2, 3, or even all 4 of them happening in the same clip. So we'll just start going here. Start looking at it. This is Ramona Bachmann from Switzerland. You know, she's dribbling there. She has that space, that gap to hit. There's no cover in behind the back line. So she keeps going, big touch beyond. And you look at where she's at. She's in that gold zone. All right. And she scores. So we dribble to penetrate there, and off we go for a goal. All right. So again, we receive the ball inside, dribble, gets it, dribbles into that gold zone. All right. The interesting part I think about this one is that she receives the ball and is facing the wrong way, but she takes advantage of that gap between defenders. Something we talked about when we did the dribbling very first webinar. Sometimes it's better to dribble at the space between defenders than actually at the defenders. All right, so again, that dribble penetration, getting into that gold zone. All right. Joaquin, if you're on this, I apologize. All right, but this is a really good goal.
He's used to that.
Yeah. So you see that dribble attracts the attention, all right, of basically the entire Mexican defense. They now have to adjust again to deal with Willian, all right, who recognizes their space, all right, in front of him into the box. All right, and then we see Ney on the backside making that run. Big touch from Willian, all right, penetrates beyond the defense with that single touch. All right, Ney's looking at that space at the back post. All right, Willian knows he's there. Goal, breaks Mexico's heart. All right. So again, we just look at, we got into the, now we got it right at the edge of that gold zone. All right, right in the edge of the gold zone where Willian gets into. All right. So we would say this is unbalanced as well because Mexico is all switched over to that central part of the field, completely forgetting about this back post area now because of this touch by Willian. All right, he's on that edge between the gold zone and the box assist zone. All right, you see that clear path Neymar has. All right, you even see Renato Augusto there in the middle. He's got an opportunity as well to get on the end of that ball. So really, Brazil, it would have been more difficult than for them to not score in that situation. All right, Nazem Khazri, Panama, again, it was a dribble penetration into the box. It captures the attention of basically the entire defense from Panama. All right, there's that gap created in the green, all right, for the player to dribble into or attack. On the backside, there's space again for Khazri to attack. Panama is completely unbalanced. Both of these players had to choose where to go. They forgot about Khazri. They focused on the ball, and now we're in again. So we'll go back to this real quick and look as we go here. So you see this player's making the run. This defender is unsure what he's going to do. Is he going to follow Khazri? Is he going to go inside here? This defender doesn't even know Khazri's back there. He's complete focus is on the ball carrier. All right. And then it's an easy tap in on the back post. Again, look at where all the, so this is unbalanced. So we go back to real quick, we'll run through. We have dribble penetration into the box. All right. Gap for a player to run into. All right. So we have a run in behind. All right. And then we have unbalanced them. All right. And then we have another run in behind. All right. So all of those factors came together, even a little bit of combination play there. Maybe you might argue with the little pass outside. But again, it's not one way necessarily that we're going to penetrate into those goal scoring areas. It's a combination of all of them. This is a goal from a little guy you might have heard of. So you see the ball carry, time and space to face forward. Look at the back four. They're all frozen. All right. This one player is retreating. Messi is already on the run. Look at his body language right there. He's already sprinting. He's not waiting for the ball to be played. all right, he's going right away. He's in the golden zone. And even though he's on his right foot, you know, not his preferred foot, but he's still okay. This is one thing we need to make sure we focus on is, again, watch Messi before the, all right, watch it before the freeze. He's gone right now. He's gone. He is enticing this pass, all right? He's encouraging this pass over the top from his teammate because he sees his time. It has time and space to look forward and play it in behind. He's not waiting for the ball to be played and then running, which is often what happens with players a lot at the youth level, all right? And not just in these situations to running behind, but in many situations where it's clear the player with the ball has time and space, we need the players off the ball to present a clear passing option instead of making the player with the ball make the decision and then moving after the pass is made. Messi is moving before the ball is even passed, all right? And so when it is delivered, he is onside and able to run onto it, all right, and finish it with relative ease. He's not a bad player. He might make it someday. All right, so this is Renato Augusto from Brazil. Again, this is that run in behind. So you see Neymar is on the ball again. All right, we can see here how all the Belgium defenders are focused on Neymar. All right, and rightfully so. So this is a case where you have a special player. All right, fantastic on the dribble. So it makes sense that a lot of players are focused on him and they can lose focus on other players. So if stands around and watches Ney, then they're gonna be easier to defend. All right, Neymar's still a spectacular player, but it's gonna be easier for the opponent to defend him because they really only have to defend against Neymar. But you see Augusto sees that space, and again, he's in the gold zone. Neymar recognizes that he's on and delivers, all right? And it's an easy goal. This is the Japanese women from the World Cup against the Netherlands. We get the ball wide, not really in a great zone right now from an assist perspective, but they have created some numbers up. So this player has a decision to make. And you see right now, she's talking to her teammate like, whoa, 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 hey, where's my help at? So help arrives too late. The dribble provokes this player into coming out and making a decision. She has a pass into the central channel. All right, little drop off there, little combination. All right, you can see the Netherlands is disorganized, some pretty big gaps to play through. Into the golden zone again, player running in behind. All right, and again, a relatively easy finish. So more combination play. All right, even though they gave this an own goal, it's a pretty nice goal. France versus Australia, little combination there. Grease lays off into the path. Pogba sees this gap between the defenders. The defender there has a decision to make. All right, he's going to have to close that gap. Gets there late. He wants to stay on his mark. All right, and the ball just crosses the line. I know it's questionable if it went across, but obviously we had goal line technology in that tournament. But again, just that quick little combination play. And the one thing is that Pogba doesn't give the pass and stand. He continues to run. All right, he's provoking the defenders. All right, so if the defenders if this defender would have followed Pogba, all right, and seen his run, then it would have given Griezmann time to turn, all right, and make a decision about what he wanted to do. So again, that movement and combination play makes it very, very difficult to defend and makes defenders make choices. Chris, I hope you're on here today. All right, we got a little bit of Colombia action here. All right. So you see, again, we've unbalanced the defenders there from Poland. All right, they fixed 6 defenders to this position. They slide it back inside. All right, now, a lot of times when you slide it from one side, you think about, let's completely switch the ball back into the central area or even over to the left-hand side. But this momentary switch here is going to open up a passing lane. We've got a 3v3, 1, 2, 3 Colombians versus 3 Polish players. This player has to make a decision about what he's going to do. He wants to take away the central part of the field. That creates a passing lane into Falcao. And again, we get into the golden zone to score. So that assist didn't come from one of the primary areas that we talked about, all right, but we still look to find a way to get into the gold zone, all right. With that pass, we've eliminated a lot of defenders and made it a 3v3. All right. And that pass is on now. So this time, we're going to deliver the ball into this box assist zone. All right. Just a player's running into that space. We see all of the attention of the Netherlands defenders is drawn to this Canadian player. We create, again, that space on the back post to run into. Ball is served early. All right. And again, an easy goal. So now this is a decision where this is something that in training we need to work on. And as a team with your coaches, you need to kind of put in some rules or some guidelines about what we're going to do here. So we have the option of driving to the end line. All right, this player has an option to drive to the end line. But because there's so much space right now, because the Netherlands line is relatively high, all right, and she knows she has a runner, all right, she decides, I'm going to play the early ball instead, all right, and invite the run on to the pass to score the goal. All right, so if we look, what's the next one? Yep, so this is Canada again, and we're going to see same type of, instead of a pass into that box assist zone, we're going to look at a dribble into that box assist zone. So we're going to penetrate that way. All right, and you notice this time we've got deeper defenders here, and we don't really have anybody to run into the space for a service. So she's going to continue her run to the end line to give her teammates some more time to get forward, and also because she doesn't have a great passing lane to play the ball across. All right, so these are the rules that players see. She's going to get into that box assist zone. Again, 16% of assists came from this area. She attracts 2 defenders to the ball. All right, and it leaves a player all alone in the golden zone for a one-touch finish. So this is that, we call it that central. Is this, let's go back. I don't know what's wrong with this clip. Doesn't like this. Oh well, we'll skip to this one. These two are similar clips. All right, so this is that. Whoa. Oh, I guess PowerPoint just decided to crash. That must be what it is. My whole computer's crashing. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties.
Just to add before Joe puts everything back up on there, you know, looking at like Jesse talked about, taking those shots from those distances, as you're going to see with the clips, the defenders start to move forward, right? One of the last clips you showed with the Colombian team playing against Poland, that center back wasn't quite sure. Bad situations. We can talk about the defending later, but the whole aspects of taking that space, taking those opportunities is good. And I know a lot of your teams have been talking about that half space, right? Finding those goals. And like Joe was talking earlier, that percentage is dangerous because as a defender, it puts the defender in a situation of they know that you can probably score in that space too, right? And that's a difference where you see the difference from 2010 to 2018. When the ball gets played down the line, the cross, it's going to be a cross. But now that when you're inside the box or the top of the 18, you could do 2 things, right? Or 3 things. You could shoot, you could pass, or you could dribble. And that's why you're seeing the game being changed a little bit, even with when we want to do. So continue to watch where most of these goals are starting from is that half space, right? And there's always other opportunities. And then the last thing I'll say is they're always looking to go forward, right? When you're looking at these clips, everybody's looking to take an opportunity to go forward. And that could be, again, a shot, a pass, or a dribble.
Yep, and the one thing I would say is those goals that are created from, you know, we look at the amazing goals from distance. I think it's important that when you watch them, how are they created? So we've got Pavard's goal. Pavard's goes off of a half clearance from Argentina, right? So there's not a lot of other things going on. So it's kind of like, this is worth a go, right? Like this is worth the risk, taking the shot from distance. And obviously it pays off. But other times, like Nate said, it's because the ball is going into areas where it's difficult to defend. So we're in this space, and let's say, you know, if we found a player in this zone right here, or maybe we found a player here, you see how many of the defenders from Jamaica are on this side of the field. Well, it makes sense to maybe take a shot from here. I know that I'm not going to be able to get too much further forward without a defender confronting me, and I don't have any other teammates available to pass to. So you know what? A shot is better than no shot at all, right? So if I don't take the shot, we're not going to get a shot taken off. So it's worth kind of evaluating, how did that shot from distance come about? Was it because the team moved the opponent into areas of the field where they knew they had to defend and they created that space further out from goal? Or was it kind of like a broken play where, like, this is the best chance we have? A shot in this situation is better than no shot, because that one definitely won't go in. So we can kind of assess it that way too, and not just look at, wow, that was a spectacular goal, without thinking about, well, how did it happen? How did the ball get to that position in the first place? So, all right, let's see if this thing's going to work now. Yep. So we get the ball here in this central crossing zone. All right. We have a diagonal pass into this player at the top of the box if we want it. She chooses to go into the air. You see this defender has positioned herself between the two central defenders for Jamaica, wide open. All right, and again, we have 3 players getting into the box here. So Nate's point just a second ago about players are going forward. All right, how many times do we see a player in the position here where they could turn and attack the box? Well, if there's no players in the box, if there's no players around the top of the box, it's going to be so much easier to defend this one player, because we know our only option is really to dribble or to take a really wild and risky shot or to cross it to nobody. Here, Jamaica has a difficult time defending because there's 3 players in the box, all right, and they only have 2 in the box and 2 recovering, all right? So really the crosser had all the time in the world, all right, to find a target, all right? And again, like Nate said, it all has to do with being willing to go forward and gamble. So again, similar situation. Lindsey Horan here is going to pick up the ball in that same kind of central crossing zone. The back 4 is fixed kind of high at the top of the box. We've got to worry about this player in the middle, but then we've got a 1v1 here on the back post, Alex Morgan, all right, and plenty of space in that goal zone to get to, all right. And again, there's an agreement. Alex Morgan doesn't wait to see if Lindsey Horan plays the ball into the box. She runs, all right? She makes the run. Now, she knows if Lindsey Horan, for whatever reason, decides not to play the ball into the box, she's not stuck. She has time and space. She can go forward into here, all right? She can go back and around, all right? You see there's a player all the way up here that's obscured by the logo. We could play a bigger diagonal ball out that way. But Alex Morgan knows, I have to make this run. I have to threaten. I have to get forward, all right? I have to gamble and see if she'll play the pass to me, all right? And again, she does. And she knows she's making a run into a very dangerous area of the field, all right? If England defends it.
Joe.
Yeah. Oh, we got to see the celebration. Hold on before we got, look at that.
Yeah, go for it.
There we go. Anyway.
You made a comment about, they have rules or things that they kind of predetermine in these moments. One thing we talk about with my teams is the run will dictate the pass. So there's always that awkward, like, should I run? Is she going to serve it? Like you said, Alex Morgan, she's going. And if the decision is not to serve it, that's fine. I make that run. I'll recycle it. But, I've told my players, it's kind of, don't wait when that head goes up and you make that run, stay committed to it. Like you keep that timing going. And if the player on the ball wants to give it to you, they will. Otherwise, it's just that awkward, like, should I run or not?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I agree, like one of our team rules, it's in our game model, is when a teammate in any area of the field has the time to face forward with time and space to play forward, somebody needs to make a penetrating run. Now, whether or not that run is rewarded is a different story. If we think about it, we don't ever want our teammate with the ball to only have one option. So if we have 2 or 3 or 4 players or even more than that moving off the ball, only one player is getting it. All right. So if 3 players moved, 2 players are not getting the ball. Does that mean their run was worthless? No, it means you make the run. Think about it when you have the ball. If you only had 1 player, how many times have you said it? Somebody needs to move. Well, if only 1 player is moving and everybody else is standing, you don't really have a lot of options. Sometimes you feel like you have no option. But if you have multiple players moving and you have to make the decision where to go with the ball, then it becomes much, much easier. And players off the ball are more willing to work. If we're moving the ball quickly, then it makes it seem less like work and more like fun because we're keeping the ball. So, yeah, I mean, those are things to ask coaches. Hey, when do you want me to make that run? You know, when should I make that run into the box? Those are great questions. You know, you guys meet a lot now individually with coaches. These are the kind of questions that you can ask instead of, you know, do you have any questions? No. Or you ask some, you know, kind of generic questions. These are things to think about for sure. All right. So now this is Dele Alli. So we're going to look at the same. We're going to look at this central cross zone. So that instead of the ball arriving in that space from a pass forward, it comes from a pass backward. You notice where all the, we'll go back here real quick. Look how deep the Sweden defense is. So a cross into the box is not a high risk or a high reward play. All right, the percentage of times that you'll be successful in that case are not great. But now by going backward into the zone, now we force the defense to come out. They're all focused on the ball, all right? And they've forgotten about the players on the back post. You see it's 3v3 and the space, and that's an easy goal again. All right, so we've attracted the defenders away from the goal, like Nate and Jesse said earlier. We've pulled them away from goal, all right? Got them to focus on the ball, all right, and that creates the space in behind for us to attack, all right? Again, another example, this is just a different way the ball arrives there. This is a big diagonal across the field to Luis Suarez, all right? Brings the ball down. He's going to do some dribble. You see the attention of all the defenders. So he dribbles to penetrate and provoke, keeps the attention, all right, of the Portuguese defense. You see Cavani there on the edge of the screen sneaking on the back post. You see the Portuguese defenders all still focused on Suarez with the ball, all right? And they lose their mark back post in the goal zone again for a goal, all right? So, I mean, part of the problem is as soon as Luis Suarez cuts inside, right, he's a goal scorer, all right? So right now, what are they defending against? They're defending against the potential for Suarez to hit a shot, all right? Instead of hitting a shot, all right, he hits a cross. But they're all worried about Suarez being able to take. Why? Because he's taken shots from that distance before and he's scored goals. So they're definitely worried about that aspect, all right? And then it just creates a space for Cavani here to sneak in on the back post, all right, and score. So we've looked at that. So some takeaways, all right? Some takeaways. So your team strategy needs to consider where we try to win the ball back, all right? That's not an unimportant aspect of it. If we're continually winning the ball back by our own goal, we know that it's going to be more difficult to create chances because we have a longer way to progress the ball up the field, and we're going to have more of the opponent between us and the goal. If we can win the ball higher up the field, it makes it easier because we're closer, we have less distance to travel, and we probably have less of the opponents between us and the goal. All right, if we're going to win the ball in the middle of the field, it gives us more options to go left or right. All right, it gives us a more direct path to the goal to us. So we need to think about that. All right. If we're not going to press, we don't, just because we can score more goals if we win it closer to the goal doesn't mean we have to press the entire time. That may or may not make sense based on the pressing webinar from last week. But we have to be thinking about that sort of thing. So defending is connected intrinsically to attacking. Where we win the ball back matters. All right. It's not 2 separate parts of the game. They're both linked. With the purposeful ideas about how to penetrate areas where the majority of goals are scored and created, all right? So we have to know where the majority of the crosses are coming from. So we might play a long ball early in a game that gets behind it and creates a great goal scoring chance or even a goal. That does not necessarily mean that every time we get the ball, we should play a long ball over the top. That particular scenario worked, all right? So we might have to adjust though, all right, and not think, well, we know that only 9% of assists came from that in the last World Cup, right? Could it be higher in our game at the youth level? Yeah, it probably is a little bit higher. But again, it's not going to be a percentage over 50%, all right? Again, when we look at where those 5 assist areas, most of the assists came from that area or those areas. So we have to think about, can we get the ball into those areas more often? It doesn't mean we have to get get into those areas every single time, but we know the more often we can get there, the better our chances are. All right, and then the location of our shots impacts the likelihood of a successful finish. All right, again, if we're 12 yards and in, or 18 yards and in, but realistically, when analysts really dig down into that gold zone, it's about 12 yards in from the penalty spot and in. The more chances we have there, the higher our percentage, our success rate is. All right, the higher the number of shots we are able to finish 12 yards and in. All right, so again, does that mean every shot needs to come from there? No. Every shot that we looked at, even though most of them are in the gold zone, not all of them are from 12 yards or in. All right, but we do have to think about the location. So we have to think about where are we trying to get the ball to set up a shot on goal. If it's constantly outside of those zones, then the number of goals we score is probably going to be lower. All right, especially as we get older. With some of the young ones, we take some shots from distance, and we got some shorties in goal or goalkeepers who can't get to the crossbar. Yeah, some of those are going to go in. But I know on the female side of the game in particular, Coach Jesse and I and some of the other coaches will look at goals that get scored on now at the youth game, all right, against goalkeepers who maybe can't cover the goal as well. So that 30-yard free kick, all right, that kind of loops in and goes in the goal and everybody cheers wildly about, you know, we would all look at each other and say at the college level, that's not happening. The goalkeepers are better. All right, they don't let those goals go in. Maybe once in a while they go in, but for the most part, those shots no longer go in. So what a player was successful with at the youth level, scoring goals works then. As we get older, it doesn't work anymore, and sometimes they don't understand why. So I think it's important that we understand, you know what, it's a tie game and that goalkeeper's short and I've got a shot from 30 yards. Yeah, I'll loop one in and I'll get one overhead and I'll score a goal and be great. But I can put it in perspective and go, you know what, that shot usually isn't a high percentage shot. And if I was against a better goalkeeper or a taller goalkeeper or a combination of the two things, that might not be the best scenario. So we've got to be purposeful about it. What's working in a game, you might have to go against the percentages, but by and large, the percentages are what they are for a reason. So those are the takeaways. I think from this that we should be thinking about as individual players. Great questions to talk with coaches about, because I'm sure that they have opinions on it. And the more you converse with coaches, I think the better it is. If you guys just wait for them to tell you everything and don't have conversations about it, I think you're missing an opportunity to kind of improve your understanding of what they want, but about the game in general, and also what you think. You don't necessarily have to agree with your coaches. You're going to have to go along with it, but you can think about, well, how do I see the game? How do I envision the game? Because hopefully a bunch of you guys are going to end up coaching. All right, you'll be like Sid and Coach Cal and some other coaches in the club who were former players and now are coaches. So this is a good way to start on that path. So just a couple of source contributions. This is just for CYA measures, but that's about it for today. I know we went a little bit long, but hopefully because it was goal scoring, everybody enjoyed it. We certainly can open it up to questions if anybody wants to put something in chat or stick around afterwards when most other people leave. So thanks everybody for your attention. Sorry I went a little bit long today, but again, hopefully because it was goal scoring, you guys enjoyed it a little bit more than say defending.
Thanks, Joel.